All right, guys, we're live. So just can I just check, Moin, did you catch up on the last call, the recording? You did? Yeah. So you saw the background where we walked through where the origin of performance bonus came from
Yeah.
and the intention behind that. And high level, just to recreate the intention again, Dima, will be watching this on catch up. The intention is we treat head coaches and other project leads as profit share partners, right? So the net profit we're left with, we're splitting it amongst the people based on a respective stake that we've created, right? So I think I'm just going to kick off. Well, what I want to do, the intention of the call, of course, is for me to get flat on this so that we arrive at the amount to bill, we conclude on that amount, and then you guys can raise the bills and we settle that. Also just acknowledging, taking ownership. Some of the things not present is we've not had this performance bonus. What's stated there is on this head coach accountability document. You have here profit share opportunity on the upleveling effectiveness, 10% of net upleveling profits for meeting that, 15%, so on. So this is kind of all that's explained. However, it's not a very clear policy of what's included, what's not included. A few things like uh, before, after tax, etc., is not included. Okay, so that's not specified here. So a detailed policy around this to get very clear, and also to get very clear on which elements of revenue count and don't count. And by that I mean there are, as an example, when you're a head coach, there are people in your program, but by no conversation that happened in your program, a conversation that's happened elsewhere, they have signed up and up leveled to something else, right? So through either conversation before they joined that particular program, but maybe their payment or sign up happened during or after, or um, or there's a conversation happening with somebody else, like another coach or whoever referred them into the ecosystem might be speaking to them about a particular product. So those things can be more articulated and gotten clearer, right? So that's I just want to state that that's missing policy on that being clear and spelt out. What I have communicated previously and on a Monday head coach call, and of course, saying that verbally can still be multiple times. I feel many people aren't getting clear when I say, did that person up level by virtue of being on the program? And we say on the program, what makes the difference is the environment, the community, and the coaching conversations, right? ECC equals H. So was there a coaching conversation that is the source of that person then going and signing on to that program? Or did somebody go and sign on to another program because they'd already planned to before they joined, they planned to program A is what they signed up to, and they planned to sign up to program B that they already had in mind before, because we've had this instance where somebody's referred somebody to the coaching body, and the coaching body is starting in April or May, but HR is starting now. So they're like, hey, do HR first. They join HR and they sign up to the coaching body later. But nobody on HR spoke to them about the coaching body that we know that we're aware of, but somebody spoke to them about the coaching body before they did HR, and then they signed up to the coaching body as and when the opportunity arose, right? What I do want to share or add, so we'll look at, so one is this policy, we're going to make this tighter. What I also want to say is in this policy, there are all these bits in yellow, which I've put as my proposed edit, right? As because this definition, what's missing here is to how do you ascertain that profit where something that program has not yet been delivered, right? So its expenses have not yet been incurred, and so it's futurized. So it's in theory you can draft this policy, but in calculating it, there's an impracticality. It was not pragmatic to be able to arrive at knowing what that is. Now, how long this conversation has taken, some of those programs have happened. So we've seen their program profitability. So we know some of their expenses now. But at the time of, a 90-day program or HR program ending, at that point in time, we might not know the future profit, say if they signed up from a Jan program to HR starting in May, or September program as an example, right? We wouldn't know till that time arrives. So a proposed edit is to arrive at what we can use going forward. And if you're acceptable to it as head coaches, we can also use this to have a very certain calculation because these will be based on revenues. So while that's based on profit, the revision is to propose a percentage based on revenue that matches close to, is akin to what one would have gotten had it been a percent profit, right? So, and those are 7% of upleveling for digital programs, 3% for Kili, and that would be net of a referral fee if a referral fee was paid on that person, and 3% for TCB. And then again, just to be clear, again, that might be net of referral fees, and for TCB, just to be clear, that would be billable or due or to be billed to TCB and paid by TCB, right? So this is again something where we've had a policy here. We hadn't really created this. I mean, this old document would have been there with Vera, but it doesn't work for FitBanker to pay, say, revenue that goes into TCB. It doesn't come to FitBanker. So this is obviously something we've got clear with Vera that TCB has to pay that. What I want to, did you get a chance to look at this, Moini? So this is the CFP that was created already.
Yes, the CFP, I thought you were talking about the head coach's doc. No, the accountability doc, no, I don't think I looked at the revised version. But obviously, this was shared on the call. The revised CFP, I saw that you went over it on the call as well. So
yeah, so this CFP is there. What I just wanted to state, like, we want the summary data on the front sheet, and that is what requires to be who's prepared it, who's approved it, who's, actually needed a few things here, Hope, where I was saying I want the finance, who's prepared it, reviewed by finance team, approved by program lead, right? So program lead would be Ambika for HR or me for 90-day program. And so one of us needs to sign that off. Again, just a small thing to check. The company tax is 25%, right? For UK.
That's correct,
Moini.
the UK.
I thought it was
Yeah.
20%, but I don't know. I don't
it's
own a
20%,
business.
Yeah.
the most recent one.
Yeah, no, it's 25%. It used to be 19, and it was changed to 25% last year, 2023. So, but here the percentage was showing 20. It was never 20. It was 19 and then moved to 25. I think this year or last year, but this year's programs will fall in that 25% bracket at the end of the year. All right. So just to clarify that there was one small area here which was showing us 20, but it should be 25%. This number needs to match what we have here under upleveling. So this revenue, which we're clear on, there's no debate about this, that 12 and 1083 should be matching here.
I think it depends on the size of your business and how much revenue you're generating. Because I think if it's less than 250,000, then I think it's still 90%, 19%. Whereas if it's over 250, then I think it's 25%. So it's tiered based on the size of your business. So small businesses are not taxed at the same rate, essentially.
Okay. Do you know when that took effect? So I saw something like that as well. I wasn't sure on the effectiveness of that.
2023, I just Googled it.
It's since 2023, yeah. But okay, let me just confirm with our accountant where we will fall into. It might be the 19%.
Yeah, so 19% for taxable profits below 50,000, and then 25% for taxable profits above 250,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will we'll just confirm that thing. But the main bit I wanted to confirm here was this was first of all the old calculation, and there were some errors which I've flagged in yellow, like Campatel additional revenue that was
You added for HR.
Yeah, and then this was again put as net of referral fees. This was also put net. And
So actually for this particular sheet though, Ronnie, like, so one of the things, just my observation on this, and then also like for the head coach's accountability docs, like I feel like putting this document together should be part of the agreements. Like had I known in December, January that this was going to be part of my remit as a head coach, then I just would have been more mindful of it, right? A little bit more, say, potentially driven by the targets, potentially a little bit more mindful of just what are the things that contribute to this, like referral fees or,
yep,
you know, various different things. So even the sheet, I don't think there was a column for referral fees on it. It was the challenge, the name, and how much they paid. So obviously, when I've had those conversations with Lombe, that's the details, the data I'm like given because he's going to give me what I asked for, right? Like I think that was something you said on a previous talk. But like how this, like the detail that needs to go into this, one needs to be on this template, and two, head coaches need to be aware that this is something that they have to complete as part of their agreements, right? So
yeah,
just whether it's that initial documentation or whatever, just somewhere in there has to say, like, as a head coach, this is also part of your responsibilities.
yeah. So that's correct around preparation of the CFP, but the document has had obviously the bonus stated that if you achieve that effectiveness, you get that bonus. That's been there. So, and yes, the intention has been, and the intention came about from last year where we introduced this, beginning of last year and end of 2023, is that we want coaches, head coaches, to be aligned with the overall business objective. That there needs to be alignment. So they're driven to fulfill on the business goal of growth, right? So that is important, and it should drive as well, bring intentionality to look at each person and say, who can we up level and convert? So that is the intention. The CFP document was created kind of in passing on a conversation on a head coach call that I joined with you, Pooja, Carol, and we started sort of mock up this format, right? So there was no existing template created. That's another missing that was not there. But it was something I kept prompting Hope and Lombe, and I was saying to you, head coach, that you should be able to monitor, like this is the people, this is who's up leveling, converting, so we can see how much up leveling revenue. And head coaches should be seeing that maybe as in part of their Monday calls to start to look at how many of our cohort or batch are up leveling, what effectiveness are we in line for, even looking midway at, hey, we're on schedule to nail bronze effectiveness and generate additional performance bonus or not, right? There should be some form of monitoring that, whether or not that document's finalized, at least some indication for it. So agree with that. So just wanted to first of all acknowledge that I didn't want to meddle with the original numbers that were put in, but just wanted to flag that there was some missings here, right? That were incorrect. So I've left those there. Secondly, these are obviously revenue, but if we now know the number of people that were on the April challenge, which is 50, and based on that, the head coach fee gets split across the number of participants, so 24 each. So the net profit, and this is net profit just assuming that's the only expense, right? There are other expenses that we have not yet started to allocate, and this is why it's complex when we use that wording of net profit, because we don't fully know it till the end of that program, right? So it's not pragmatic to have a head coach who completes a program earlier to wait on till those numbers are certain, right? So one way to make it billable and close the conversation and the liability is to have it based on revenue. Now, we're saying here, if we assume that's the only expense, this will be the net profit. And if you arrive at this as a net profit, this would actually be the net revenue, right? This is the net revenue after the one direct cost, which is the head coach fees. And by the way, that one reduces the 24 for the 90-day and 67 for the HR program that person signed up to. So 640 would be the net. Why is that gone up? What was added to that? 16. Yeah, so there I've included here that if we did this just on the net revenue before tax, I've included what was missing there, which is the HR revenue. And this is what the total revenue would be, which is 3879. And 10% of net revenue would be 387.93, is if it was based on net revenue. So this is not yet net profit. But if we were to do it based on, I'm sorry, the coaching body is excluded. That again is the net amount. And if 10% of that were given, so just to put into context of a 1,800 program, 360 is paid out in referral fee to whoever referred. A further 144 goes to a head coach. So £500 out of a 1/8 program, then the business gets left with 1,300, Ambika, just so you're clear on the workability or unworkability financially of this structure, right? But that's what was put in. So there's 387 from the digital programs, 144 from TCB, that comes to 531. If we do it based on the revised new proposal, then first we get the revenue, we arrive at the net revenue, and then the percentages are based on revenue. So we don't need to wait to know what head coach fees are or other expenses. And if you were to bill based on that, out of 5818 net revenue upleveling, you take out what's TCB, this is the digital programs, it would be split this way. 70% of the 7% of the digital programs would come to that amount, and 3% of TCB upleveling revenue would be that amount. And Kili, there's none here. And the total to bill would be split that way. So of course, if it was for Kili, there's something below there. But Fit Banker and TCB, that would be the total 349. And so the difference on this basis versus, I just want to confirm that on this one, there was no other errors, would be 531 if it was based on net revenue, and 349 if it's based on net income, which the wording is obviously net income or net profits.
Yeah, it's better. Then both of you would have same amount.
Any questions on this so far, or anything to clarify?
Oh, everyone has.
No questions about how you've reached the numbers. I do have a couple of other questions about the structure, but that can wait until this bit's cleared up.
Yeah, so the question here would be, again, what's missing, sorry, in this one, net profit, sorry, in this one here, is the tax provision is not here. So Dima, put that in the calculation on the HR1. But if I were to just add that in,
Why did you say don't do? I said Mujumba. Mujumba. I know Mujumba. Yes. Mujumba. This is never work. Because I want to find these times, right? That's
again, the issue here is on the tax rate that we use. I'm going to assume that we'll go with the 19%.
you know, no, but we can never, you can never know also. Oh, no, both. And you just all upside down.
That's not correct. Why is that not correct?
Abhishek. From glasses. The other sunglasses. They're on your head. No,
To 3137.65. And if it was based on that and 10%, it'll be 313.77. And let's put that as 19%. Sorry. Sorry, are you guys following what I'm doing so far?
Yeah, that bit's clear, Ronnie, that obviously you're applying what the tax would be on and what the profits would be after tax, because once tax has to be paid, right? I guess the
Yeah.
other thing is like with the effectiveness, actually, like to get to 40% effectiveness, which I think was bronze, like that's depending on obviously how new your cohort is, that's it can be harder or more difficult, harder or easier based on whether you've got a lot of people who are new, whether you've got coaches in there, whether you've got previous participants in there, people who say maybe just on call once a year, or people who are already coaches and have already signed up to multiple things. So it's quite difficult, like with respect to the up leveling and then the percentile that you have to reach bronze, silver, or gold. That's one of the things I think needs to be discussed within this forum as well. Like from a mathematics perspective of revenue, profit, tax, I get it, right? And obviously referral fees, all of these things, they're the numbers, right? The numbers are what they are, they're black or white. But with respect to percentages, and then also like, I know like on TCB, on Penny, you revise down the numbers of what would have been for the profit share. Like I think it's 3% versus, I think TCB was 10% of that profit share. So when you're signing somebody up to a bigger ticket item, but then the percentage you change it to is lower, then actually as head coaches, we get less of that, even though the incentive is to sign them up to a bigger ticket item.
Yeah, but just to be clear, the referral fee is the big payout for the person who does the close. That's not changed. But what we're saying is, so somebody of the coaches does that. We can't give a high percentage referral fee to two different people on a gross value, right? So we're saying if you're a head coach and we're effective with 5 coaches that we manage, and we're like make them into closes and they have 6 people each. If we were really powerful in having them be powerful in closing, there'll be a trickle effect of multiple people that feeds into our bonus. That's the intention. But we can't give a double referral fee, on the gross value of the ticket. But one person did the sale. And it's a different thing to 2 people doing a sale and they split the referral fee. But that's not what's happening. There's already a gross referral fee of 20% being paid out of £360, which is a significant amount. So to have, at the time this thing was drafted, TCB wasn't in existence in a way, right? It wasn't a consideration of one of the up-leveling. Hence, we've had to go and have this conversation with Viera to say, oh, by the way, we're including this as part of the coach's effectiveness. But actually, that's with a different entity. It's not one of our digital products. So that's what we're trying to say here is that if you're a leader of leaders and we empower our people to be effective at GSU, right? If they do their up leveling, if someone does the close, the definition of close has been very clear. What's inspiration, what's empowerment? We've also got very clear with people that, hey, you might have inspired somebody, you've spoken to them, but actually you didn't do the close. Somebody else did the close, right? So we've also got that very clear for people, right? So that here, what we need to get as the head coach, that if we are effective at leading a team, the team are effective at having their conversations, right? And they lead to a certain effectiveness. There's something we benefit from. What is being proposed here as the revision, just for clarity, is so that we can arrive at an amount that is realistic or sustainable for that business, right? So for you, it's not so much.
Okay, so if I
I'm sorry,
but if I was a head coach and I had if as a head coach, I had 50% of my participants were either encores or TCB coaches, like
Yep.
with respect to up leveling,
Yep.
this conversation becomes different because how would I achieve 40%? Do you understand where
Yep.
I'm asking for clarity?
Yeah, and can I
Yeah.
just add to
So
that too, because
that should be clarified on the definition of what effectiveness is, what bronze level effectiveness is or isn't. But also one thing that we need to do, because you're saying that, where a program becomes very much heavy with ancoras, what it's also telling us is where we have a lot of coaches and there are ancoras, we also want to get into the habit of having coaches on a program be generating lives into that program, right? So that they're playing to bring lives onto the program, which are new lives, right? More than ancoras. So it is telling that where there is a lot more ancoras, then hey, coaches didn't bring in enough lives. And that's likely that has been the case where it has been majority ancoras. That most of the coaches didn't sign up anyone to those challenges. And just so you know, I don't know if is it been shared on the communications chat or the leadership group chat? Like right now with batch 6 happening. So we've seen what you're saying, Moin, is a very valid point, and it's something which is impacting business continuity for us. When we look at our S as a business, our sustainability, if coaches are showing up and coaching on programs and putting the name forth to coach on programs, but they bring no lives into the ecosystem, we see they have no skin in the game. And what happens is that they are becoming ineffective at coaching, more so when they haven't even done the program and they're coaching. And it's dissuading people from continuing their journey with us, right? And it's leading to less conversion and less, clients bringing in clients, right, into our business, which is how it's previously grown. So for the new batches of TCB, if they haven't done a program, they won't be coaching on it.
I'm glad that that's been put in place because I know Pooja and I had raised that when we were head coaching with some of our new coaches. Pooja's got a hand up.
Yeah, Pooja.
Yeah, Ronnie, just continuing on this Mo's point, because you're saying, well done, like about talking about raising it, but I raised this as a question on our last call. So I'm just feeling a bit frustrated that I keep asking the same questions and it's like it's a brand new, what Mohini's just said there is not a brand new question. I specifically said on the last call, and I asked it as a question that given the up leveling given the up-leveling potential is so dependent, I've got it written down in my book because I asked it last time, is so dependent on the cohort. Have you considered reviewing the bronze level because the profit share is so variable to get that 33%? So that was a question that I did ask. So that's just, I'm sorry.
Just
It
for
was
clarity.
a bit frustrating that we're asking the exact same questions every time.
Yeah, but this call is not to address that. What you're asking for is a policy change going forward. What I want us to get flat is that you guys are clear on your performance bonus.
Okay.
Right?
If we're talking about how to calculate the performance bonus, and now it's looking a lot less attractive given the new calculations than it was, which we're not blaming. I'm totally on board with the fact that there were some miscalculations there. Fine, get all of that. The bottom line, regardless of who's responsible or how it's calculated, the bottom line is it's much less attractive, right? And not even just attractive, but that it is not reflective of the time investment of an HC. The time investment of an HC to do this program as an HC is huge. And so where is then the motivation now for the HC to put in all that extra time and effort to do the up-leveling, like the number of multiple conversations HCs might have to help? And the last point I wanted to make, where you talked about, it's about, and this is a separate conversation I know Carol Lumby and I are having about how the referral is split, because where you talk about it only being the person that closed, like, oh, you can inspire, but who closed, that is actually, it's not very motivating for a team effort. It's doing the opposite, because then people like want to be the person that closed to get the referral instead of being like, let's have a team effort here to actually close and generate the life. And I shared an example of what happened in my last group where I was a participant, but the coach said, hey, I'd love your Pooja's on the call, speak to her about HR. And that's surely the philosophy or the way that coaches and head coaches should be operating as a team, where a coach feels they can just say to the head coach, let me get the head coach on board to have a call, rather than wanting to do it for themselves to get the referral fee, which might not be conducive to getting that sign up.
So
sorry,
I hear your point. I don't fully agree with it, and I'll give you some background context in the history of the organization as to why. But I'm just curious, in that scenario, what would happen to the referral fee?
Well, at this point, nothing's happened because
No, I'm just saying, if you had a coach, right, and your coach was about to up-level somebody, and they called you, who gets the credit for the referral? I'm asking you, if you were to suggest the policy, what would we put in the policy going forward?
Well, that's the point is that of course, that's what we need to work out, because at the same time, as a head coach, you don't want to be taking somebody's referral fee, but at the same time, as a head coach, you are investing your time, and this is not a charity. Like an hour or 2 hours that is spent helping a coach close is not free time. That costs, there's an opportunity cost where that time could have spent somewhere else. And as much as I'd love to be a millionaire and be able to give all my time away for free, like that's not the reality of life.
Yeah, but here's also something I want you all to get. Like you brought the conversation about the head coach's time and worth. What I want us all to get clear is this isn't a contract with an hourly rate, first of all. What we have with the head coach is, hey, for 3 months, this is the fee, which is 1,000 or 1,200 pounds. So this is something pre-communicated and pre-agreed in terms of the commitment. Like for head coaching, this is the fee, right? That's clear. If over and above fulfilling on those tasks, we achieve a certain level of effectiveness, over and above that, we're offering an additional incentive, right? So if £1,000 was a concern to somebody at the start, as that's not, because it's not a 3-month full-time job, but at the same time, I hear when you say it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, I'm hearing that now from coaches. I'm hearing that. But also we've got to look at, like, how are we responsible before we enter it, which is, it could have also been evident right at the start that if 1,000 is not going to be enough, even if they doubled it, you might still say that's not enough, right? Because it's not a full-time salary. This is, at this point, if you got 2,000 instead of 1,000, you could still say, if you gave 3 months worth of work, it's not 3 months worth of work. It's, the hours that you commit to and agree to be on. The worth conversation can still be there. What we need to be responsible for is, hey, this is the head coach opportunity. This is the fee. That's all pre-communicated. That's all clear at the start. Like we're not springing a surprise to say, by the way, now this is what you get. That base fee is already pre-communicated. And as a challenge, as a business, we might have a challenge which is making 4,000 in revenue, 5,000 in revenue, which is what some of them make, or less, or 3,000, and we'll still pay 1,000 or 1,200. Right? That's 33% of your gross revenue just going out to a head coach. So it's also a change that we're looking at, which is we should change the head coach fee to be based on the number of participants you get on a program, so that head coaches will also be incentivized to get more people on a program to get more of a fee. Right? So I hear you, because whether we have 25 people or we have 50 people on a challenge, we're paying 1,200. But we incur the big cost, so we get the reduced profit of what remains. Right? The fixed cost that's going out is the fixed cost that's going out. And, if you generate 6,000 in gross revenue, right, and you're paying out 1,200, you're paying 20% of your gross revenue to somebody who comes in effectively as a partner, but they're getting from the gross level. We have multiple expenses below that we incur over 3 months of, our expenses of rental and systems and salaries internally, which don't go into that, but this is where we get our revenue from. So we don't have, in some sense you can say it's not worth my time, but that comes back to us to say, hey, we're running a business which is not worth it, is effectively what it comes down to for us. When we look at it, and if I agree with your point, then hang on. And I say that to Ambi, we're running a business at the end of the year, 2 of us and a business, and if we're generating 60 grand in profit, we could have done more in our jobs. That 2 of us generating that is less than, say, 1 person's salary when we were in employment, right? So that is also a conversation we have, because we've got to look at how do we reprice our whole programming and product. But all that you guys are contributing, and Pooja, not that I didn't hear what you said in the last call, it's just there was nothing for me to do about it for this one. I can't do anything about your point around the effectiveness and Ancoras. I agree with that point. You can say that, but the one thing that we're saying is we all get rewarded more if we grow the size of a challenge, right? So, we've had 90% challenge, 100% challenge, 150% challenge. If you have that size of a program, right, there will be a decent revenue and there'll be decent split amongst everyone, right? So how do we incentivize somebody who we call a business partner as a head coach, say, hey, come in as a business partner, but the business partner then should also be responsible for the growth of that program. Or put another way, let's just say you were running your own program, but we're like, hey, we'll do the back-end systems and marketing for you, and you can use our brand. If you run your own program, you would have to bring in a certain number of people to get a certain satisfactory reward, right? And if there's a performance to be had, you can suggest to me, how do you get the how do I get the how do you ascertain how you would reward yourself a performance bonus, right? So we've arrived at some suggestion, which is live. Some people may or may not agree with what we've arrived at, but all this, there's nothing new we're bringing up now after the program that wasn't there before. And I'm saying it here to you, Mohini, as well, that while we have this as the proposal, right? This is what we want to have as a proposal. So we would love this proposal. I'm saying that we have this as a factually in place for Gira and Urvi, right? For the Thrive in 5 for April, for the 90-day challenge, and Thrive in 5 and Dipali. This is effectively what's in place, right? What I'm saying to both of you when we started this conversation is we didn't know all of these expenses, which now we kind of know, right? So we can somewhat arrive at some form of net profit, but our wording was poor. And we can give you the benefit of the doubt, which is like, let's just say we did this, Moini, and based on this, you would get 430, right? In future, based on the new policy we put in place, you would get 349, right? And it will be acknowledgement on our part for this oversight and an exception, not a precedent, not setting a precedent on this, that if you bill us this one, then we'll take that and we close the chapter, right? So this is the performance that's clear, that meets nothing new, but what was communicated in here. So we stick to our old wording here that you get 10% of net up leveling profits from bronze level effectiveness. And bronze was 33%, not 40. So just to check that that was clear for you. And also the reward, the definition of the reward here, right, also is, again, not changed. 10% of net up-leveling profits is still not changed. So we're not departing from that. What we didn't have here was we didn't have a consideration when this was drafted about things like TCB and retreats. That was not specified here, right? And the other thing that was not specified is, things like tax before tax and also the expenses, right? So how do you arrive at the net income? But now whatever expenses we know of that we've incurred, and we're excluding so many that we know of, but we haven't devised a formula how to allocate it across the various business products, which is our rental and staff salaries and tech system costs and all that stuff, right? So what I do want to do to close this chapter is Fitbank have made, and we've not been comprehensive on this definition. So I want us to, as a task to Ambika and Carol and me and Vera, get this wording very clear, airtight, and even cite examples if we need to, and sample calculations, right, of what it looks like and doesn't look like. And it's easier to do that where it's based on revenue, because we know that at the time of the sale. Another thing that's not also clear here, which has come up, by the way, for Vera as we run this past Vera, is where there's a referral fee on TCB, but somebody on TCB has not finished paying for their program, right? Referral fees there are always due after the person has finished paying, right? And she wishes to apply the same for the head coach.
Right? Is that the same for Kili as well, Ronnie?
Yeah, I mean, with Kili, yeah, if they don't First of all, it's always payable after Kili. And of course, if they're paying in installments, they don't go to Kili if they've not paid. So the entitlement only happens after. And by that
That's
time,
on the
they're-
referral bit, but on the 3% proposed for here, the head coach would get it ahead,
Yeah.
right? Of them climbing the mountain or not.
correct. Correct.
fine.
That's what I'm proposing
Um,
now
Yeah,
going forward. And what I'm saying, and the conversation I'm having right now with Ambika and Viera, is that, as an example, if you're a head coach, and let's just say after January you want to complete, we say that you're entitled to any payment or bonus or referral fee if you're an active coach at the time the payment falls due. So it would be unfair to say to you, hey, well, sorry, Moin, you got to stick around till July 18th, 2026 for you to get that, because that's when they're climbing. So what we can do is we pay you now, but it's our risk to keep enrollment alive for that person to stay on,
for that question.
show up, right?
You can. Okay. I have some questions about other referral fees, but that's not for this call. It's something we can talk separately.
What I want to do is
but I
to
think-
have a call with all what you guys are suggesting as policy for future. But that should be a separate call from this call. What I want to get off my chest, guys, is that we owe you a performance bonus that I want to pay ASAP. And I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that the calculation is in integrity. And I want to make sure that I'm sticking to the word that was pre-communicated. I'm not departing from it. And the
Yeah, and
big thing that came up for me was, where was the oversight in this whole calculation being based on revenue rather than profit, right? And I am responsible because I, the finance person, did not provide you guys with a comprehensive CFP. I just assumed when I got on a head coach call, say, guys, this is what you do. You deduct this, you do this. And I was talking through it fast on a call, and I assumed what I saw in my mind, you also, right? But that didn't come out. So when I finally get to the number to review, and also what's not clear for all of you, and I see it's not been clear, is when is something finally approved, right? So for the Thrive in 5, it's been very clear because we've had a template. And since Thrive in 5 from last year, from Shinel running Thrive in 5, there's a process of we go through, we see the full up level by virtue of that. Everything was very clear. We looked at every up level and did they come from a conversation in Thrive in 5? And if they didn't, they were not counted. If they did, they were counted. That was all clear. So, but it would be unfair for me to assume that you know that as a precedent because you were not part of those conversations. So we should have that documented somewhere so you all are clear what's counted, what's not. Yeah, so my commitment to this call is to finalize the amount that you bill us, and then we close the chapter on January 90-day challenge and Feb HR. And there is work for us to do in tightening the wording, so there is no ambiguity for future head coaches. And also,
yeah, I appreciate that.
and also that you both don't see this as a precedent, but this is an exception, which is what we're agreeing to be billed for now is an exception because of elements of oversight and error from our part.
Yeah, thanks for that. Because I think that was one of the things that we wanted clarity on, is that, yeah, I understand that it's an exception, but also you're honoring what we signed up to as head coaches. So
Yeah, I don't want to
say
depart from anything in black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's in yellow, but what's in black and white is I'm sticking to that. All I'm saying is let's
Okay.
interpret that to the numbers. The
Yeah.
one area that is not clear again here, and it's more unclear, less for you, Mohini, but more to me, it's not clear on the HR. But Ambika will take the call on this. Is, as an example, there are some people here who were on HR, but by virtue of another conversation, have signed up to another program, not a conversation through HR. And while I had communicated by virtue of being on, which means it was through a coaching conversation, or you created a meet the leaders event like we did on, Moy did for that, and call, if somebody signed up to something, it would be by virtue of an action you've taken as head coach, Mohini, or coaches on the program took that led to somebody signing up to something else. But there are some elements that were unclear for me, which I want Ambi to take ownership. If she says, hey, that's due to HR, then that's due to HR. If she says, if, I don't want to, me and Ambi are arguing over many of these points, but that will.
I would love to ask a question about that, because every single one of these names on here has been discussed with coaches on the HR program. So that's where my confusion's coming from with that. Like the fact that I know all of these names, the fact that these are conversations I've had on my coaching calls about these participants with these people. So I don't understand.
The one I don't know about, or two I don't know about, is Bethany and Shraddha Garg. Those were the ones that were unclear for me. And also Atul Patel being on HR. And also, you have Hina who claims the referral fee. Hina as the partner. Hina as a coach can directly sign somebody up to a program as she can, but it may not have been by virtue of her being a coach on HR. So that's where we're saying that this is what you've got to get clear, that did Atul sign up to something by virtue of being on HR, or is it because Hina, his girlfriend, says you've got to do TCB?
And you know what, Ronnie, it's going to be really hard to ever know that 100% for sure. Like I would say by coming on the HR program, by being inspired by the coaches, I'd love to say the head coach, Ambika, everyone else that was on the program, and being in that environment of HR, I don't see Atul signing up to the coaching body if he hadn't joined HR, 100%.
Yeah,
Shraddha
correct.
and
Yeah, and
specifically.
it's also where we have clearly we try to. That's why we really distinguish, and we've had separate training sessions on this. It's really why it's important for us to distinguish. And as you said, they're inspired by coaches, but we have a whole detailed training on what inspired looks like versus what empowered looks like, just to get that very clear. Because one is kind of the role of marketing. One translates in commercial terms into marketing, and the other one translates into actually making the sale. Now, in a more organized manner, where somebody signs up, we would have a link that comes from that agent or franchisee to have somebody sign up. So if he signs up through Hina and Hina's claimed a referral fee, clearly Hina's claiming she did the close, right? Now, Hina was not his coach on this program, right? But she was a coach on the program,
Correct.
but not his coach. So that is my point to Ambika, which is like there are coaches on a program that are having conversations with their participants. If Atul's coach had that conversation, led to Atul signing up, then clearly it's a function of being on HR. But another example is so that's the example for Atul. But here, this is where it's not clear, and this is where there's, I want to say, benefit of doubt you can give to, what was the source. But it's why we have very clearly, we try to explain and have additional training on it, but we should have that also in a policy, which is where we give examples on the training deck, which again, it's not a comprehensive approach that everybody joins those trainings. It's not a policy doc, so it should be a policy doc, right? But how do we this training, which we've delivered multiple times, is very clearly explains what is inspired versus empowered. And we've also explained where two people made a difference. They can go into, what we call kind of an assist. You assisted the person, they were doing the close, they did half the work, right? So inspired is, somebody's on their coaching call and they're hearing and seeing TCB coaches. Definitely that's inspiring. But that means the program and the way we are training coaches and developing coaches, their job is being done, just like they would be inspiring people out when they go to someone for coffee. But they could inspire people, but not close them. But when the close is done, that's where the referral fee goes, right? So here, what's contradictory is the referral fee is going to Hina, who wasn't his coach on HR, but the credit is going to HR, right? Now
It's not
that's right.
That's community.
Yeah, but this is where we have created. It's because of that community issue that we've created the difference between inspiration and empowerment. So it's definitely inspiring being on a program, and the program should be inspiring. That's how we design them. But that's why we've very clearly created these definitions to make sure people, because, well, I'll give you a very direct example here, and it applies to Moini, and Moini, maybe you know about this. Moini has been told about FitBanker 100 times by her cousin. And when Moini finally signed up, it was not through her cousin, right? And cousins got very annoyed and angry with us. Hang on, I was the first person to tell them about FitBanker. And it was like, well, it's not the first person who told them, because we say inspiration is short-lived. If they don't go to take the action, then they were wowed and nice and give you likes and thumbs up. But they actually empower is to get them into motion to go to part with something and sign up to something. So what finally inspired Mohini or empowered her to take the action to sign up is distinct from where she first heard about FitBanker. And that's where we have to be clear, because there are so many people who have come into our ecosystem that have heard about us from so many other places, right? And they're like, hey, hang on, how did that person sign up? I think I told them first. 3 years ago, I've been telling them, they're not listening to me. And now you know them and you met them and you signed them up, right? Because many of us cross paths and universes. I think, Ambi, do you remember who it was? Somebody who joined the coaching body and from the UK and is a friend of Urvi's and knows about it, but didn't sign up through Urvi, signed up through somebody in the UK. And also a reason why that's important, Pooja, is you have an example of somebody brings somebody into the 90-day program. So they've now introduced them to the whole brand. If in future they go on to sign up to other products, who gets the credit? Is it the person that brought them into the ecosystem or the person they met later up the line, right? Because
maybe it's the person they had the call with, right? Like I know people like that who I've brought into the 90-day challenge. They're thinking about, let's say, whether it's HR coach. And I personally know people like that who've said, hey, can I talk to you? And they'll call me and I'll spend a couple of hours speaking to them about it. So it's a lot of times people will go back to that original person. I think an example of that was it Arthi's sister? Like she brought her in, she had her coaches, but she's not going to sign up to TCB without speaking to her sister who did originally bring her in. But she was
some
also
do.
inspired probably by the coaches too. So
Yeah, but some do. I'll give you an example right now. Let's just say Neil, Morjaria, and Shruti, right? You spoke to them about this.
Yeah.
Now, I'm actively speaking or somebody else is actively speaking to them about Kilimanjaro, and we get them to sign up to Kilimanjaro, right? And those are active conversations going on. They won't come back to you. They'll sign up to Kilimanjaro.
they
right?
went
So
to Kilimanjaro
credit
and
there?
I would expect it. And I would have no issue with that. But they did for HR. Like, so
Yeah. So yeah, but that's why I'm saying we have to get clear what is the definition. So we need that clear. So we stick to one definition. We can't say sometimes it's this and sometimes it's that, right? So with Urvi as an example, who's had many people join a 90-day program, somebody else has signed them up to TCB or Kilimanjaro or something else. Urvi can't claim those referral fees and doesn't, because we've got this point very flat and clear long back. Even though she would have gone on Kili, inspired them, they're like, I'll join you when you go next time, but they actually get signed up by somebody else, which has happened. It goes down to the person that said, okay, are you in? Here's the link, here's the payment details. And sometimes coaches say, look, I did the final sign up. And sometimes we have to get on a conversation, and it's happened maybe a very handful number of times, where two people were both actively speaking to somebody, not knowing that one person was speaking to two people, because their nature is, I need certainty. So they're like, hey, Urvi, are you sure? Hey, are you sure it's this? Who is it, Ambi? Somebody just recently. I mean, we have Mira Sumaria, who signed up to TCB. Urvi spent hours closing this person, sent the brochure. Somehow she didn't scroll down to the bottom and she saw the full price, called 6,520. Immediately joining one program, the other person told her it's 1,900, 1,800. Like, oh, really? I'm in. Here's my money. And the credit went to the other person, not to Urvi, because she understood from Urvi it was 6,500. And she misunderstood that from Urvi, and she signed up with, who was it, Ambi? Who did
Signed
Mira
up with
sign?
me. I got on a call and
Oh.
closed her. She was on the 90-day challenge. And what she had told Ruby is I don't have money. What she told me also is I don't have money. And when I coached her and got into it, the conversation ended with I have a lot of money, but I feel guilty asking my in-laws for it. But that was a byproduct of a coaching conversation. But I think Pooja's point here is distinct from this Atul and Hina point, which will happen multiple times, where unless we act, not unless, we need to, number one, put this policy referral document out that's been sitting in the pipeline for a while. So certain things are just black and white. Head coach is also clear on that, number one. Number two, I think it's hard to delineate, whether Atul would have signed up to TCB in the absence of being on HR, and if so, he could have signed up before joining HR. He could have signed up TC anyways, right? But he saw the caliber of programs, coaches, whatever it was. He came onto my invitation to lead, signed up with me, and so what could be questionable is Hina claiming that, right? That's where Vera could have questioned him on TCB, like her claiming the 20%. Like, did you really close him, or was it a byproduct of him being an HR and coming on because invitation to lead, and therefore, if she did you really get him on that, or did his coach get him on that? But I think in terms of the higher level program bonus conversations, I think it's been in light of these conversations where I see there's lack of clarity given the different interpretations and room for interpretations here, right, based on different people's perceptions. And so something to put into, like, remove all room for ambiguity in this policy document that we have and that we need to get out. And also, Carol is speaking to Devangani tonight, her potential head coach for September, and she's requesting that she's clear on these numbers before speaking to Devangani, so that if it does come up, then she's also aware of
I'm a request, Ambi, that if you can give me a deadline by which this gets clear, and it's also important for Carol's role, and so that there isn't
what gets clear.
kind of the policy and all these areas that are gray areas or unclarity around.
Yeah, I'm not working on the policy document. We just got off the TCB call. The request is for you to complete it, given you started it and you have the most financial acumen, and also these certain nuances is your forte, right? So we just had this conversation for you to get that clear, roll it out with head coaches, so everybody's on the same page and there's no room for ambiguity, right? On that, number one. Number two, Carol has got a good dash, so I think she's probably already on the move. But if we could just conclude on the two payment conversations so that it's a wrap for Mo and Pooja, that would be, I think, an ideal outcome of this call.
Thanks, Ambi. And just really quickly, Carol and I met to review the referral fees, and then I think she was bringing that to you guys. So it is at that next stage where it's ready for you guys.
Yeah, it's on, Carol did have it on our check-in 2 weeks ago. I think we focused on this. So it is on, maybe you can touch on that, Carol, this week, then also on your and Pooja's input.
Ambi, what there is to conclude here, or rather for the 90-day challenge, the question right now is, Moini, if you want to have one more look at this and just see if there's any error or anything missed, if you're okay with this, and if you're okay with this, then are you okay with billing that amount, split as this to Fitbanker and that amount to TCB, right? So that's one question. And Ambika, just to check that the person that signed up there was Rashida. Is that person paid in full?
Rashida has paid in full, yeah.
Sorry?
Rashida did pay in full.
Okay, so that means also that she can immediately be paid from TCB as well. There's no question on that, right? For Moini, right? So these both can be billed right away. So it'll be, sorry, these two. So it'll be 430, right? 430, these two can be billed right away by Mohini. That's one thing.
Perhaps
then
highlighting that, given all the edits are in highlight yellow.
This is what I'm putting in green as finally for Mohini to review. And what we're saying is, if this were the revised policy were in place, and this revised policy would be in place going forward, this is the amount that Mo would have built, a difference of about 80 quid, right? 80 quid different. So it'll be 430 now. And then what you need to sign off on, Ambi, is if your agreement to this, I have different views of which I've raised already, but ultimately you're making the call. But bear in mind that what you're even the example you give right now of Urvi or Hina, there has to be one clear policy rule. Like you give a referral fee to a head coach, you don't give a referral fee there to somebody else who's had a conversation. So the answers should be uniform. We need to stick to one approach around who and where the close happens. So it's either Hina didn't close this.
Well, ultimately, it goes down to also what the person puts in the referral form. Atul has Hina on the referral form, right? Mira Karia doesn't have Urvi on the referral form, and she did go on to say, "I acknowledge Urvi did a lot, and she really helped me a lot, etc." Right? But I was also clear.
Well, she did then, if she said that.
She said that to me after I closed her. Urvi must have reached out to her, and she goes, "Hey, I just want to acknowledge Urvi did also have conversation with me," and that's probably a byproduct of Urvi asking her, "Hey, how come I did share the price or whatever else."
That's just one example that came up now. I didn't know about that, but there are others where other people later come and tell us, yes, this person actually did and this person did. And I have people messaging me now as well about, whoever made a difference to them to sign up to Kilimanjaro or whatever
But I
else.
think, Ronak, I
right?
think you're talking about referrals. I think we're very clear on the referral policy. There's nothing ambiguous there. We're talking about the head coaches conversations. Is this a byproduct of this product, which is a different conversation, right? And I think let's stick with this right now. All the references you're citing are to do
Okay,
with.
so Ambi, according to you, what is the amount Pooja should bill you?
So you're billing Mohini pre-taxation.
No, post, after tax.
Okay, so then what a calculation the he has done over here is 25%, and that will need to be changed to 19%. The 718 will need to be changed to 19%, that's 25%.
Okay, so this is why I asked you, Ambi, come up with the number, because I'm not touching this document because we have different things. So please finalize your number, what you're saying it should be. So that we're clear and we can close this chapter. And then we can have a separate call around drafting this policy and any other questions around effectiveness, referral, etc., or we can work on that as a separate agenda with existing and past head coaches. And let's just run that once more past Dimahi. So this is recorded. So just Dimahi to confirm that we are doing it based on
And this over here is 10% of profit share as per what the agreement is. So it hasn't got the 7 and 3% TCB and FitBanker split.
Sorry,
which is
hasn't got the what?
the
Yeah, so you
7%
split that.
3%.
No. We're sticking with the old wording, but you're arriving at the net income. And the problem with the net income wording for programs like TCB and others is that the profit is not known.
Correct. Which is why we've added all these costs here, the projected costs.
Except that TCB doesn't have coaches, right? So there's no thing, but you, me, and Vera run it. We're not drawing a salary as a head coach for running that program. So what I'm saying is the real profit of that gets ascertained at the end of the year, right? And I gave you all the example of our document. So while you have a TCB fee right now being rewarded on a sales price, this is how much TCB makes in revenue, and this is how much they made in profit last year. Less than 50% of it. So you should get that when you're giving 10% on a 93,000 less a tax provision, you're still giving a much higher reward on the old wording, which doesn't work after you've paid a 20% referral fee on that gross amount. It's not a wise thing, but the future one will be based on that amount, and it will be a lower percentage, which is 3%. Because what we actually end up with the net profit after we reduce our expenses is a lot less from our selling price. Right now there are payments based on the net revenue, not really the net profit.
Okay, so I'm clear on columns G to I. I confirm that. Can you please do the math on M and split it the way you just did for a 90-day challenge?
What's in a plane, Kishan?
No, I'm just saying on the old it will be this. What would have been good for you to do, Ambi, is what the revised would do, like I did. Right? It's not hard to apply. So you can see how near or far it is. 7% of the revenue, 3% for Kili, 3% for TCB. Right?
Yeah, in the document you had earlier from Mohini, you just had one figure, which is 340. So the split you've just done this
No, I
afternoon.
don't have. For Moini's document, I'm given both examples. If we applied the new policy, the revised policy, revised calculation based on proposed policy, HC would get right what's below. Okay. And if we start with the old wording, which is what we had in existence at the time they signed up as head coaches, what Mo is getting is 430. If the new policy was in place and accepted by head coaches as, okay, we see the oversight, and so we will go with the new policy.
Okay, I got it. And these
less.
numbers weren't there when Dima and I looked at them. So could you please correct whatever this breakdown is for HR in the interest of time?
No, I'm asking you to do that, Ambi. I'm asking you to do that, but this is if it's 10%, if it's on the old policy, this is correct. This is what it would be.
So we're working with the old policy. This is it.
Okay, it'll be good for you to know if it were the new policy, what would the difference be, and good for Pooja to know how much of a difference is there. And yes, what will be billed and what I'm committed to paying Mohini is that amount, and that will be the same here. But it'll be good for you to know so that you also know how to calculate this for just your future effectiveness.
So the invoice Pooja's billing is £775.82.
Yeah, if we just confirm the last thing of that 19%, just to make sure that we fall within that category of small companies. And if we fall in that category, then yes, 19%. The main rate is 25%, applies to profits of 250, small profits rate of 19 applies to profits under 50, marginal relief. So as an example, TCB just made 41 last year. Anyway, that's after expenses that we included, which was some training and stuff. Didn't draw salaries. So it would have been lower, but it was just under. This year, I don't know what it will be. And then it's gradual from 1950 to 250. It goes up every, what, 50,000 or every 40,000? Slightly less than that.
All right. So Pooja, you're clear. Mo, you're clear. Anything else, Ronak?
I'd like to, since Hope's shared the document, I just want to go through it myself just to make sure I'm comfortable with the numbers, if that's okay.
Cool. All right, perfect. Yeah, please do review it, and then you could reissue the invoice.
Yeah, Ambi, can I request that you just do what the proposed would have been? This was Pooja's proposed. Is this what you're talking about? I don't know.
No, Pooja's proposed bid is above. Yep, I can do that, Pooja. And I'm really
No, Ambi, what I'm saying is you got to add this here, replicate this whole table here, and get the revenue amount, net revenue, and apply it by those percentages and see what that number would come to. Just like we've done here, but this is based on.
I did the bottom table, Pooja's done the top table, and the data you're looking at right now is what Dima is corrected.
No, this is the old one, Ambi. This is all superseded. Dima has corrected this.
That's correct. That's what I just said.
Ambi, I was on this tab. I'm saying these are superseded. These are based on revenue. Okay? I'm asking you to calculate for me what this would be if it's based on the new policy. And it's not hard to know that the coaching body, you would get whatever those percentages that we agreed on.
Yes,
right?
I can do that.
2%. Okay.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
I'd just love to see what the difference comes to, and also so Pooja can see what the difference comes to had she done this under the new policy versus the old.
All right, cool. Pujamo,
But I just wanted to say thank you, and I will probably get a revised invoice out to you guys tomorrow when I'm back at my laptop.
cool, thank you.
And I'm just clarifying that I'm going to submit an invoice and it will be based on the old policy, not the new policy. Even though and funnily enough, mine is less that way, but that's fine. But that's fine.
The new policy will still be,
Yes.
I think, lower, but that's what I want Tambi to calculate so you can see
That's
it.
But no, that's why I just thought I'd like to just go through, but just so we're clear, the number in that right column, whatever it is, that's the one that I will be invoicing. But I will just double check that.
This amount here,
The
775.
So I will just
Yeah, so this is the amount, 775.
and if it's okay, I'll just read through it because I'd like to just be comfortable and then I'll submit it. Is that okay?
Yep.
Thank you so much for clarifying everything. That's great and really helpful. And I feel like at least this bit got resolved. So thank you very much.
And thank you both for your patience and in your patience with us. And Ronak, if you could just stop recording. Pooja, do you have 30 seconds? I just need to update you on some real urgent, and Mo, you could listen in as well and hope as well.